Welcome to Fish Creek Capital Lunchtime Profits. This is Jeff Wright. We are live and unedited on Friday, December 5th. So again, it's actually after the close, but we're going to go with Lunchtime Profits still and just go through the news and look at the market. And then I'd like to talk about what are your cash flow plans for retirement? Like, what have you? I know you think about it. I know everybody thinks about it. I think about it. But what are your actual plans for cash flow during retirement? So let's first take a look at the news and see what's going on. I think one of the big headlines again has been just Bitcoin and its volatility. Even this week, yesterday we were, back to like 92,000. Today it's back down again. We are, I can tell you looks like we're back below 90,000. Definitely below 92. We're below 90,000 on the futures. We're like 89,650. Ethereum is hanging in above 3,000 on the futures, which that's good for Ethereum as far as the volatility goes. But one of the things that is different this time is the correlation or the lack of between stocks and Bitcoin. This is the first yearly split from stocks in a decade, according to a Bloomberg article that's out there today. And what that means is basically there's an inverse. Generally, they've gone together. Stocks are up, crypto's up. This year, first time since 2014 that stocks have rallied and Bitcoin has not. So S&P is up 16% and Bitcoin is down 3%. Of course, that's changing, as we speak, but that was from a Bloomberg article midday. So that is not normal, and it's rarely deviated from the S&P, and especially what I think is even more interesting is that this is with just the expectation that cryptocurrencies would do well with a Donald Trump presidency and his return to the White House. He was very favorable to crypto. Of course, his family has a lot of crypto ties. The regulations are favorable, and there's been a lot of institutional adoption, but it's not looking good for Bitcoin right now as it relates to the S&P 500 and its performance this year. So that was a news item that was out on Bloomberg today. From a market, let's see how we closed. The Dow was up 100 points. Plus 0.22%. The S&P up 13 points, so kind of flat at plus 0.19%. And then the NASDAQ plus 0.31%. And Russell was down about 3.8%, 0.38%. So that's where we landed. And I do like showing this chart because I think it clearly shows kind of this chopping back and forth that we have. So let me share my screen and just see how you can see how the week ended. And then we'll move on from this. So again, this is that volume profile screen that I keep pulling up, but I do think it's helpful because you can see here's the whole week: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We did chop back and forth. You can see, especially through Thursday, but we were kind of slowly moving up. So I had said earlier in the week, I wouldn't be surprised if we kind of chopped sideways to higher. And so we did move higher today. We had a great open, hit a high of 6,900, 6,905 on the futures. And then we chopped around really since the Europe closed today, which again would be that 10 to 11 a.m. Central Time. And you can just see chop, chop, chop. So that's what happened this afternoon. But we did kind of grind our way up and closed right at the top of the high from Thursday. So yeah, that's how we ended the week. Again, don't focus on the intraday. Don't focus on the back and forth. It's just all noise. And I think it's important to have a long-term plan. So let's talk about that real quickly. Just what is your long-term plan for cash flow? Here at Fish Creek, we focus on creating those long-term plans just with individual companies, treating those companies as well as we treat ourselves as actual owners in those companies, because businesses that we own, that is how you should look at that also as a shareholder. And we're looking at how these companies are returning cash back to their shareholders, especially in the form of growth and dividends, and the growth of those dividends. We love that because it's going to increase your cash flow, and it's going to actually give you a cash flow plan for retirement. One of the big things with retirement that retirees will make is that they're pulling from their principal, and they're in growth stocks. They're not necessarily getting a big dividend. And so when they have to take income out, they're actually taking from their principal. Well, in retirement, you've got to make sure that you can do that. And a lot of people can't because they don't necessarily have enough there to do that. Well, the beauty of having those dividends, and the dividends that are growing, and if you're reinvesting and letting those dividends compound before retirement, when you get to retirement, you're actually going to be beating the S&P with your dividend income alone. Like, you can do that with long-term planning, and that's pretty exciting. And it is actually very, it just gives you confidence as you go into retirement if you can have that dividend cash flow. And there's different ways to get that dividend cash flow. We're looking at good, strong companies that are actually growing, that have good management, low debt, strong earnings growth, companies that we can understand and that we use their products. Of course, there's also real estate investment trust. We look at some of those from an income perspective with dividends. They're great dividend payers. You can do this in different sectors, to consumers, technology, to utilities, to the REITs, the real estate. And you just want to build a plan that can create that cash flow. And I want to help you do that. I love doing that. And most people don't have a good, solid plan, or at least confidence in their plan and what that's going to look like for them. So please reach out. Down below in the link in the description, there is a link for a free consultation. Please take advantage of that. I would love to help you. You can also visit fishcreekcapital.com, click on Learn More, and then we can reach out to you that way. But we would love to help you with your cash flow plans for retirement. Dividend growth is a proven way to do that, and has helped a ton of people, whether you're rich or poor, young or old. I'd love to show you how that works. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next time.